Tech, and welcome to a video where I talk about the books that are at the top of my to be read pile. And the first half of this video is pretty much anticipated releases for the second half of 2025. And then I've also got a couple of things that I own that I would like to read as well. So I wanted to start out with the sequel or companion novel to this book, which is one that I personally loved. And the sequel or companion is called The Enchanted Greenhouse. I read up on the synopsis because initially I thought it was a bit more connected to this than it actually is, but it's really just a bit of a riff-off. So in this one, there is a sentient houseplant named Kaz, and he forms one of the side characters that is quite a support to our main character in this book. However, he was created by sorcery, which is illegal to create something sentient. So the person that created him is named Turlu, or Terlu, I think, and she was turned into a wooden statue and sentenced to isolation. And she wakes up in this book, in the Enchanted Greenhouse, on this island surrounded by greenhouses, and there's a grumpy gardener maintaining the greenhouses, and the greenhouses seem to be dying, and she goes, okay, I need to stay and help. And so this book is very much about forgiving and about second chances, and that means for yourself and for others. And I'm just looking forward to reading another book that this author has written in the cozy fantasy space, because I loved this so much. It had a great balance of plot and character and tension as well, and I'm feeling like this one, The Enchanted Greenhouse, will work in a similar way. Reliably, it's the same writer, so that's what I'm hoping for. And this one comes out on the 15th of July. I should also mention that I am putting this video together as a top of my TBR pile because we are having a baby, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to read, because will we have a baby during July? Probably. So I'm seeing if I can read physically, because that first one I want to get physically. Thankfully though, the next one is an audiobook, and that is A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, which ironically comes out on the same day, the 15th of July, that The Enchanted Greenhouse does. And it's also a cozy fantasy book, and it follows a witch who loses her powers and then has to get them back. And I think it's also very localized at potentially, like, I want to say a bed and breakfast, but I don't think that's quite right. It says that she's at an enchanted inn. I'm giving this author very much a second chance because I read the other book by her. It also has a very long title and I can't bring it to mind right now. And I didn't like the way the ending went. There was something that just felt like too jarring about the plot for me, and that reveal made me go, oh, I don't actually like it as much. And I'm hoping that this one doesn't have any kind of jarring plot reveals in it, at least in the same vein or tone that that other book had. And I know that they're written by the same author, but unlike the first book on this list, they're not in any way correlated. So I'm looking forward to trying something new by this author and then seeing what I think about it. Then we jump to the end of July. So the new release that I'm looking forward to is the third book in a series coming out on the 29th of July, or so I believe. And it's the third book to this series. It's called The Nightshade God. And I read The Foxglove King and absolutely fell in love with it. And this one follows Law, and she helps run poisons for the cartel that she's involved in. And one day one of the heists goes bad and she is captured by royalty, and she's put into the royal court almost like a pivot or a decoy in order to get close to the prince, who they think is involved in some awry politics. And on the outskirts of their city, towns are being completely wiped out. So they're trying to figure a lot of things out, and Law is at the center of it. And she also has the ability for necromancy, which is pretty rare. People obviously have aptitude for the magic in this world, but she's got a real strength to it, and she just takes to it, which is quite unusual. So she's a bit of an outlier in that sense, and she doesn't really want that aired to people. So I like how this magic system has gone so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes in the third book. Like, I need to know. I'm also really hoping that it's set up a little bit of a romance between the male and female leads in this book, and I'm really hoping that we see in book 3 a bit more of that come to light, but it really depends on the plot. It might just stay at a tension or a thought, and that's okay too, but I was really hoping that because it was kind of foreshadowed a little bit, it might actually happen, so we will see. Now, this next book I haven't heard anything about, but I just saw that it was called Arcana Academy, which is like magical school, and I was thinking, yeah, I'll read that. I haven't read anything else by Elise Cover, and as far as I'm aware, she's only written young adult stuff, and I'm fairly sure that this is adult. I haven't seen it tagged as young adult on Goodreads, so hopefully, please correct me if I'm wrong, but hopefully it is just adult because I'm not interested in the category of young adult, so we will see. And it says that it's about a woman who wields magical tarot cards, lands herself in a false engagement with the headmaster of a mysterious academy in this first installment of an enthralling romantasy series from the best-selling author of blah 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 blah. Clara Greyswood has survived the underworld of Eclipse City through thievery, luck, and a whole lot of illegal magic. We love to see it. After a job gone awry, Clara is sentenced to a lifetime in prison for inking tarot cards, a rare power reserved for practitioners at the Elite Arcana Academy. Just when it seems her luck has run dry, the Academy's enigmatic headmaster offers her an escape for a price. The headmaster, Kalis, believes that Clara is the perfect tool to help him steal a tarot card from the king and use it to recreate an all-powerful card long lost to time. In order to conceal her identity and keep her close, Kalis brings Clara to the Arcana Academy, introducing her as the newest first-year student and his bride-to-be. So it's already setting up this romantasy space, but it seems like it's also setting up a lot of magic and politics as well, with the school setting and the intent for the cards. So it's a romantasy that I'm willing to try because it seems like the romantasy part is not dominating the synopsis. So I think that comes out on the 29th of July, maybe the 22nd. Goodreads says the 22nd. For some reason, my notes say the 29th. So I probably got that date from somewhere. But anyway, regardless, I'm looking forward to trying this one as well. I don't know if I'll buy it straight away. Hopefully it's available from my library as an audiobook eventually, but we'll see what happens because I am interested in reading it. The next one is very random. I have not seen anyone talk about it. I have no idea how it came on my radar, and it's an August release for the beginning of August, and it's called This Fatal Kiss. It says, spirit away with a whimsical fantasy filled with dark magic and flirty polyamorous romance. Already I am interested, and it's about a water nymph named Gisela, and she dreams of returning to the living world and the family that she's left behind. There's also Kazik, and he's apparently a brooding, interfering, spirit-hunting grandson of the local witch, and he botches an exorcism at the start, and I think they end up like forming some kind of alliance. They work together after that. And then it doesn't seem like there's another character mentioned yet, but it says, finely crafted with a magical setting, this delectable quest through the spirit world is an enchanting read for fans of queer romantasy. I'm looking forward to that. What a great title. Like, how fun does that sound? So I hope that it lives up to all of my expectations because they are quite high going into this book. And then I can't believe we're already looking into November new releases, and I've got two to talk about before I mention some other stuff afterwards. And one of them is The Blackfire Blade, and this is the sequel to The Silver Blood Promise, which was a conspiracy fantasy book with a murder mystery at its heart, and I really liked the fast-paced action, the way that the characters never sat still, but it also wasn't fast enough to lose me either. And I'm looking forward to continuing on with the Blackfire Blade with a new mystery, still like a base mystery at the core of the book, but then more political conspiracy around it. I'm excited to see where his choices take him in the next book. And then of course we've got one of my favorite fantasy books of all time. I mentioned it in my favorite books of all time video, so go and check that out because so good. And that is The Will of the Many. So I plan to reread this book before the release of The Strength of the Few, which comes out on the 11th of November. And I do have this physically. I also have bought it on Audible, so I have it for an audiobook as well, just in case I need to listen to it instead of read it physically. We'll find out. I don't know, again, how I'm going to go physically reading in between nursing a baby. Like, it's a whole new ball game for me. So I've prepared myself as best I can, but this is an epic Roman-inspired fantasy book with such convincing characters and world building and lore, and I feel like the world is only going to expand and impact our main characters so much more in the sequel, and I'm so looking forward to all the ripple effects that happened at the end of this book. Like, I want to know answers. I want so many answers, and I've waited for so long. I need to know. Next up are just some books that I have floating around and I wanted to mention in one place to make sure that I didn't lose track of them. And one of them is on my Libby holds. Well, it's not even a hold because it's just been available to grab whenever I want it to. So because it's sitting in a different spot on Libby, it's just on my wish list rather than waiting for a hold I'm like, I don't want to forget about it. And that's called The Sun-Blessed Prince. And this is a queer fantasy book. And it says, on a hotly contested battlefield, a prince whose touch creates life meets a soldier chosen by death. And it says, Prince Elysian is a giver, a closely guarded secret. He can heal any wound and bring the dead back to life. He also can't be killed, so is cursed to watch his country wage an endless war. Reapers can kill with a single touch, and when one attacks Prince Elysian near a hotly contested battlefield, the Reaper expects a terrible punishment. Instead, Elysian offers him a new life on enemy territory. Cat, as Elysian calls him, hadn't realised he could ever find someone who would make life worth living. How good does that sound? Oh man, I'm so excited for my prospects in fantasy. The books that I've mentioned feel like such a breath of fresh air because I've had so many did not finishes and just lackluster books this whole year so far. I've had a few 5 stars, but really not that many. And so I'm really hoping that this top of my TBR list elevates my reading because I need a win. I just need a win, please. Now, speaking of Libby and my TBR in general, I believe I have 20 books on hold for Libby, and I've also discussed those, I think like maybe a month before I filmed this video. So I've got a library TBR video if you want to go and check that out and see what I've got on hold. And then I've also got on my Goodreads, I tend to keep a very tight track of what I want to read, and I've got probably 39 want to read books on there, and most of those books are the anticipated releases I've already talked about. They're the books on Libby that I've managed to already put on hold, or they're just books that I own and I want to get to, and I know that that list isn't very long either. I think I've got like 5 or 6 books, maybe up to 7 books. I need to double check because my numbers are old. I should have updated them before I started filming this video, but I've probably got like a handful of books left on my physical owned TBR. I've talked about some of these in other videos, so I won't linger on them too long, but obviously I've got The Crimson Road by Angela Slatter. I also recently got a book called The Combat Codes, and I haven't really heard much about this, but I was just hoping that it turned out to be good, which is a huge, stupid risk, honestly, given my track record, like I said earlier with reading. But it says that they were born to fight, now it's time to win or die. In a world long ago ravaged by war, the nations have sworn an armistice never to use weapons of mass destruction again. Instead, highly skilled warriors known as Griva Knights represent their nation's interest in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Murray Pearson was once a famed knight until he suffered a loss that wounded his homeland, but now he's on the hunt to discover the next champion. In ruthless underground combat rings, Seago is making a name for himself. Murray believes Seago has what it takes to thrive in the world's most prestigious combat academy. But first, Seago must prove himself in the vicious arenas of the underworld, and survival isn't guaranteed. It just sounds like the academy, the fighting, like it feels like a very popular trend right now to have trials or academies and combat, and honestly, I eat that stuff up, but I'm just looking for books that really hit with me, and it's got to be hinging on the writing style and the particular characters to make an impact, and I'm hoping that this book does make an impact, so that's why I bought it, and I went out on a limb, and it's a risk, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, I've also got a parenting book called The First 6 Weeks, so I'll read that in the coming weeks. And then I've got an audiobook as well saying like the things that you wish your parents knew or something. So those are my 2 parenting books that I need to read. I don't know if I'm going to read them before the baby comes, but I'm going to try to. And then of course I've got some graphic novels. So I really wanted to read volumes 11 and 12 of Saga, but I need to reread volumes 1 to 10 first and refresh my memory on all the side characters and where everyone is exactly, because I've been out of this series for such a long time that I just don't remember anything. So that's why I've kept them in the plastic, because it's just not the right time. Like, I haven't picked up the rest of the series for a reread. And then we are almost at the end of this video, but I wanted to point out that I have been thinking about rereading this series for months now, and I have avoided it because I know that it's going to take over my reading entirely because these books are so fat, and I just wanted time to read all my other stuff before having a baby. And I don't think this is going to fit into my schedule, but I so want it to. And that is Ship of Magic, or the Live Ship Traders trilogy by Robin Hobb. And they're long. I've read the first trilogy again, the Farseer trilogy, very recently, and revisiting Robin Hobb's writing style again has just made me completely come alive with wanting to reread all of the Realm of the Elderlings series, which is like 16 plus books in total. So like, no pressure, given that this takes me at least a month to read, and I don't know how I would go prioritizing other stuff to read around it unless it's an audiobook. So I don't know if this is going to happen. Maybe I'll get the ebook and that might be easier for me to scroll through while I'm like feeding a baby or something, but who honestly knows? Because I also need the brain capacity to take in what is happening in the book, and whether that's a possibility when I'm sleep deprived to all heck, I don't know. And then finally, at the top of my TBR, this has been such a thorn in my side because I keep promising that I'm going to continue this series and then it doesn't happen, and I'm so annoyed at myself, and that is the Dresden Files. I think I'm up to book 4 in this series of my reread. I got like 12, 13 books into the series and then I just stopped reading because I got distracted. So my plan is to get back up to date again and then continue on with the books I haven't read yet, because this is like such a quintessential fantasy series, urban fantasy about a wizard detective, and it only grows with each book and I'm completely obsessed with it. But have I read it recently? No. Have I said I was going to read it recently? Yes, I pretty much put it in a goals video almost every year, except for this year, because I know what I'm like. So I was hoping it would just kind of skirt by under the radar and I'd be like, oh, I haven't put pressure on myself to read it this year. I now feel like reading it. So that's what I'm hoping to do. And because they're all audiobooks and I've listened to them before, so they're all rereads, I'm hoping it's not too strenuous on my rereading listening ability. So that is what I want to read for July and for the rest of the year. I am really hoping that I find some 5 stars. I've just been in like a slump for finding 5-star books. So if you have any new anticipated releases that you want to tell me about, please do. But that is it for this video now. I am surrounded by books on the floor that you can't see, so I need to go and clean up. But thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what your TBR is for the rest of the year down below. I would love to know, because join me, let me know what you're reading. But again, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you in another video and I'll see you next time. Bye.